Iowa's News Now Sports has your all-access pass to all things Hawkeyes. This is Eye on the Hawks, sponsored by University of Iowa Healthcare.
We await the snap from Luke Elkin. Here it is. Taylor gets the spot down, and it is
right down the middle.
Right down Clark.
Main Street Clark.
Right down the middle of Lakeshore Drive. Drew Stevens. I think he matched his career high of 53 yards, or long of 53 yards.
52, 53, who cares? It was true. Welcome to Eye on the Hawks as we look back on Iowa's 10-7, not quite extra innings win at the friendly confines there in Chicago over Northwestern. Mitch Fick, Owen Sebring, who's been anywhere and everywhere across the state of Iowa and the state of Illinois in the last 96 hours or so. Mike Howell as well. Thanks for joining us here as we wrap up the 9th week of the Hawkeye football season, 10th counting the bye week. 7-2 and now a game up, all alone in first place in the Big Ten West. Lots to unpack here across Wrigley Field. The epic goal line stand, the shades of Syracuse way back when. Let's start with a look, though, at our socials. If you're not following us already, I don't know how you found us, but good on you. Eye on the Hawks on Twitter, Iowa's News Now on YouTube and Instagram. Of course, if you're listening to this after the fact, head over to those live streams Sunday at noon and Wednesday afternoon, where you get all the visuals, all the highlights, everything like that. On the video side of things, you got to see Gary Dolphin's call there of the Drew Stevens kick, courtesy of Learfield and Hawkeye Sports. What a great shot there from you, Owen, opening up on the friendly confines there, and the defense setting the tone early. Nick Jackson, a little bit of a blitz there early on the sack, and then one of Iowa's most productive offensive plays coming into Deacon Hill, I believe his 4th or 5th start here. Just toss it up and make the defense make a mistake.
That first drive, I was just like, just keep throwing the ball. There were like 3 PI calls in that first quarter.
It's a great strategy.
Like,
he's got the arm, make them make a mistake, and then, boy, there's never been a doink in Chicago, so I don't know what to compare this to, but redemption, of, as you already saw, it was coming, but a missed 53-yarder off the post there, and then the deep ball again from Deacon, and just a tough one to Nico. Nice interception there. Didn't show you the fumbled, not snap, but fumble in the pocket by Deacon as well, but it was a 0-0 game at half. Ontario Thompson doing what he does best, blocking that punt here, and then setting up. Welcome back, and glad you're healthy, Addison Ostrenga. First career touchdown, another short touchdown pass. Complimentary football there. Set up good field position with the special teams and defense, and the offense does the rest. And then the goal line stand that we'll dive way more into, but that was the stop there to keep them out of the end zone. Don't know how it happened, and what a great juxtaposition there. Castro saying it's going that way, Northwestern saying it was in, but they would get that touchdown. Brendan Sullivan, the great toss here. Boy, if you're Jamari Harris, can't do much more than that. Heck of a play there to tie things at 7, but then make an argument this is the biggest throw of Deacon Hill's career so far to a newly jerseyed Caleb Brown. 3 is now 81, thanks to Cooper DeJean making an offensive appearance. We'll get into that as well, but huge throw there. And then Drew Stevens, redemption. 53 and absolutely piped it. 52, I don't care what it was. Add the 3 feet if you want, but that is your game winner. Iowa 7-2, flying the W as you do on the north side. 10-7 your final, again to sit now all alone in first place in the Big Ten West. By the way, I don't know if Hayden Large has been wearing the curl the whole time, but good on Hayden Large, who had the second longest play of the game for Iowa in this one, the 15-yard. Oh, boy.
He spent 90% of the game as the leading receiver on the team. If it weren't for that Caleb Brown catch, he would have been the leading receiver for Iowa.
It wasn't his first catch, right? He had one before.
He had one against Iowa State. I was
not as big.
Giddy for Hayden Large, though. Yeah. Holy cow. Well, you were there for us. You had all the views. Your just gut reaction coming out of Wrigley Field with, boy, the jokes all week were going to be, oh, we're probably going to get a baseball score. Yeah, you did. Mm-hmm. And
high-scoring baseball game, though.
Hey, not the highest one we've seen at Wrigley Field this year. Everyone's like, well, you got to score 20 to beat the Cubs in their best game this year. What'd you take away from that? Again, more of the same, but the same more often than not has been working for Iowa.
Yeah, it was a game where you just, I mean, at halftime, we all of us media folks went into the bullpen, which is where they had us working on our photos and videos.
That's not a play on words. That's what it is.
And we were all like, what are our highlights? Like, what is this football game? I mean, I was
The PI made the highlights.
Exactly. I was just kind of chuckling just because it was like, dang, that was some.
This was
ugly
after
football.
half, but this is the real MVP right here.
We need to talk more about the divot. Yeah.
But yeah, it was just like, I mean, that was, people were saying that's one of the worst first halves of football that they've ever watched, and I'm like, okay, how is this different than any other half of football that I was playing all season?
I don't know. It's like winter drivers in Iowa, that first snow, they just forget how to drive. Like every week it feels like Iowa fans are like, all right, this is the week. And then they see kind of the same style and same philosophies. And they're like, what's going on? Like you've been watching it for almost 25 years now in some different kinds of things. Like this is what it's going to be.
I would have felt so bad for Drew if he would have missed that second one. Even though those are, two 50-plus yard field goals. You can't expect a guy to be making every 50-plus yarder. But if he missed the second one, man, I mean, he would have really been shouldering a lot of blame from Hawkeye fans today.
He's bounced back really well from his miss. He had that tough one at Purdue, right? Had the one to get blocked and missed another one, and then came back the next week and was great. And then,
Talking about the offense in the first half, and obviously it's been that way, and there's been a lot of injuries, and I think you give some of them the benefit of the doubt with the injuries and with the O-line injuries yesterday. It was tough to move the ball. I would have been really disappointed if you missed that, not in Drew, but I was screaming watching the game, like, you have to try and get it closer. Like, I could not. I know after the game, Kirk said he had faith in Drew, which, of course, I think everyone does.
But still, like,
but you want to
5 more yards?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they tried. They ran a couple plays.
I mean,
did
they? Like, maybe throw one more pass, like try to, do an out route to the sideline or something. I mean, they were just seemed content to just let it be a 53-yard field goal. I was slightly, I don't know. It's the first time in a long time that we've had like a very subpar Torrey Taylor game. I mean, I
brought that up. Iowa's best player had his worst game of the season.
Yeah, I mean that's the weird thing.
Brought it up too, like right.
And worst is also like very relatively still average. His bad game is almost averaging 40.
You're living in the margins though. That short punt set up.
AJ Henning had a great return.
Good return. That short punt he caught it with in stride, and it set up their only touchdown. So I mean, when you're playing with these close margins like Iowa does, those plays matter, and I'm glad it didn't bite them in the end.
That's the weird thing about that goal line stand, because I said this on Twitter that those three. Can you think of 3 successive defensive plays that have been more impressive for an Iowa defense ever? I mean, 3 plays in a row to do that is
the 7 plays at Syracuse. But I also, if you're Northwestern, that's what they're waiting for.
Yeah.
And you kept doing it. And you
we'll get it this
doing
time.
it.
But the hard thing is that those almost don't matter because
they still went and scored.
The punt, and then the field position was still flipped, and so they came back and scored a touchdown anyway. So
it might have mattered though that they wasted not wasted, but the clock went down, and then Iowa got their field goal with under a minute left.
That's true.
Yeah. That's probably how it mattered. But again, I think you got to try and get it under 40 yards.
We're going to hold them here. We'll have a short punt. They'll score, but then But that's how. Well, let's talk more about that goal line stand and get another look at all the plays. You already saw the 4th down stop. We'll get into that in a bit, but first let's hear from Y.A. Black, Cooper DeJean, Jay Higgins, and just what it took to recreate that moment from Syracuse. It was Chicago Cusapalooza there, holding 3 times 1 yard line and in.
What's it like? I don't know. It's a crazy experience. This is what you do. This is what you practice for as a whole team. That's what you look for, big moments in a game to step up and show what your team can really do. What was going through my mind? Yeah, it was being in my gap and just having trust in the guys around me that we can do this. Well, my sense was I'm 1 yard deep back here with my face in the dirt, so I really don't know what's going on. But then you hear the roar of the crowd, and then you know you did it.
I mean, that's the Iowa defense right there. Not giving up. On the drive. They got the ball on the one yard line 4 times in a row. And the guys out there made a huge stand. That's just that fight that we have, instilled in our defense and in this program.
After the game, it looked like you guys were kind of on the edge of
We knew the situation we were in. We knew it was 4 down territory for them. And honestly, that's every defense's dream. To stop a team, 2 QB sneaks, inside zone twice, like that's what we hang our hats on, is playing physical. So when we saw their heavy personnel, and we knew it was going to be be a mano game, and that's what we were happy about. We knew we had the opportunity to show what we could really do.
You just heard from Jay. He had maybe, as far as an individual effort, he probably had the most impressive one. I think it was on the third down play where he just runs full speed ahead at the running back and just meets him right there at the 1 yard line.
He just keeps taking steps towards an All-American season. I mean, he's solidifying it. And then, I don't know if you could tell, that's Y.A. Black. He shaved his goatee. I don't know if you guys could tell. He's changed that in the bye week. But, boy, yeah, you look back at it again, just, yeah, he just popped. He just popped him. And, again, this is in a season where the defense is leading the way yet again. And boy, Logan Lee, well, we'll just say, fortunate they let the boys play there.
He grabbed it, but he let it go quick.
Yeah.
I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah, that's what the refs care about. You let it go quick.
We've seen how, and again, the real MVP here is the grounds crew. I'm surprised the Divot doesn't have a Twitter account by now. But boy,
that bucket's
what a perfect metaphor for that game, and like what just have to dig in, get dirty, and win a good old-fashioned in its final go-around, a Big Ten West game like that.
Yeah.
That was just super, super fun. And again, a defense that has had so many big plays and so many great moments. I mean, that's the one that's your foundational look, is something like that. So many people talk about what happened in 06 in the Carrier Dome.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, now you got another one there on a baseball field, which we learned, like, apparently Iowa didn't have to sign off on playing at Wrigley Field. That was an interesting development there.
That was an interesting soundbite from Kirk. We don't have it in the show, but he said, like, I hope the Big Ten revises rules so, like, if we play neutral site games, both teams have to sign off on it.
Which is wild. You would think that'd be...
I guess I assumed that.
Yeah.
I mean, when you were there, what was the percentage of Hawkeye fans?
Had to be 80-20, right?
Yeah, I mean, once the game started, I didn't take many, like, really good looks around, but I know that when Northwestern scored, I'm like, okay, I need to go get like a fan reaction shot of some Northwestern fans. And I'm like,
anybody?
Where are they? I mean, yeah, 80-20 probably was conservative. I mean,
that roar, even just them coming out in the swarm.
I guess it's usually like 60-40 at Ryan Field anyway, really? At least the games I've been to.
If you don't count the band, I mean, obviously like the pet band area, like that's a big percentage of Northwestern people there. But outside of that, I mean, there was not much purple in that building.
I've been to a few games at Ryan Field, but I always look back at 2015, that 40-10 win where Akron went for 204 touchdowns. It was Northwestern's homecoming. It was the 20th anniversary of their Rose Bowl team. And so there was like every reason for there to be a big Wildcat contingent. And it was probably, again, this is 8 years ago, and I'm probably underestimating, like at least 70-30 Iowa fans. Yeah. And I was sitting next to a Northwestern fan, and he said, I'm just happy to see the place full. Which, I mean, again,
selling tickets.
We talk about the number of Iowa fans that live in the Chicagoland area, particularly in Chicago. Like this was, and the Venn diagram of Hawkeye fans who are Cubs fans who have been waiting for something like this to go to Wrigley for a game. Like, yeah, they were going to scoop up tickets however they could.
And do you think that's why Northwestern, like, do you think they intentionally scheduled it to be Iowa because they knew they'd sell tickets? Like, I mean, what if this was
the marketing crew? Yeah.
What if this was the Northwestern Rutgers game? Like, how many seats would be empty in that?
Get all those Yankee fans.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to schedule that for Rutgers. Yeah. I don't know if what the gate thing is, if the Cubs get some of that, or if I'd imagine. But Hawkeye fans usually, I think, fill up Ryan. I went there in 2019, the 20-0. Kind of a boring game, but it was just dominated by Iowa the entire time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't full that game though, but it was like more than like 60-40, I think, Iowa fans.
If you're, I mean, schematically, I don't know if this is maybe a good question for the defense, or I don't know even know if they would answer this, but like, if you're a defense on the goal line, you know, it's fun to watch, like, you know, as they get lined up right there at the trench and they all kind of like shift their bodies inward and like, you know, you can tell that it's just going to be another meat grinder in there. Is that the scheme in a defense, just to be like, we're just going to throw every single person in the box and like, okay, if they throw it, then they throw it and they're going to beat us.
Engage 8, I believe, is what it's known from the video game days. Engage 8, where it's like you've got, I think, the 2 DBs that are in man, basically.
Yeah.
You've got, I think, 1 safety in man, and then everybody else is going.
Yeah, that was
what it looked like.
And it's like
it was funny listening to Y.A. Black, and like I think 3 reporters tried to get him to explain what the thought process was, and he's just like, you just got to get in the gap and fill it up. And
it's fun listening to Y.A. talk. We finally got to hear from him during the bye week. That's only the second time since media day we've got to hear from him. But of course, there were all the talk going into the Minnesota game, how he was banged up, and you see he had the stuff on his shoulder. But even during bye week, they're like, so, what were you dealing with in Minnesota? I'm fine. I'm not hurt. Like, all right, you're not going to get a whole lot of YA Black. He'll circle the wagons for his team. Of course, that was the definitive moment of the defensive side. The offense, a few days after their offensive coordinator is told he won't be back in 2024, the game in hands, and whether or not you enjoy exactly how they were able to set up the field goal, they were able to do that. We will talk about that final drive for the Hawkeyes right after this.
Bauman's has been selling quality clothing for over 100 years. We carry a wide selection of men's and women's clothing. We recently expanded to offer a great selection of shoes and accessories. We have the area's best selection of both big and tall and can outfit anyone from the farm to the office to a casual night on the town. Bauman's is a proud family-owned business, and we're excited to continue the tradition of quality clothing and unmatched customer service since 1909. Visit us for all your clothing needs.
We're back, and maybe the Iowa offense has figured out a few things here. 7 plays, 37 yards. Don't sound like much, but boy, that was with the game in hand after a Northwestern touchdown to tie it late, less than 2 minutes to go. Iowa needed to move the ball. They did. They set up Drew Stevens. Here's the fellas after the game just talking about how important that final drive was, and then we'll take a look at everything.
Yeah, it's just do your job. We do 2-minute drills almost every day. We have been in that we have practiced that exact situation before, and so it was just like another day, just at practice. We told the O-line was telling me right before we went out there, he's like, just like practice, just go out there and keep doing it. Yeah, so we game planned that pass all week. A couple out routes to the field, and we got the look that we were planning for. So it's just my job to give him the ball. Thankfully I did. So. But yeah, he ran a great route, made a great play on the ball, got some extra yards. So, yeah, just a great play by Caleb.
Yeah, I think we're just inside the 40 and, stretching at 36, 38 today probably would have been not comfortable but realistic. And then, the goal is to get it inside the 35. So, had the clock working for us. So just wanted to, try to make sure we had everything under control.
Well, I just changed where I'm aiming. But one of the key points I've been working on throughout practice the last couple of weeks and even in the game, like pregame talking to Coach Woods, is being convicted on my line, which means truly believing where you're aiming and try and kick it there. Because sometimes, maybe in the past, I've aimed at a spot and then not trusted it. But obviously at the end of the game, I picked the line and that's where I wanted to play it truly. Because the wind was slightly pushing it left to right, and Mother Nature kind of got me in the first half. But made it when it mattered.
How tough is it to shake that off when you're going out there for a possible game-winning kick?
If you would have asked me that a few years ago, it probably would have been it's impossible. But, it's 1 or 2 minutes, dang, that sucks. But, your team needs you in close games like that. So, it wasn't that difficult to shake off.
Another example of moving forward. Recognize, release, go take your next shot and absolutely pipe it. Boy. 2 years in as starting kicker, and again, I think it was going into last year, there was such worry about what the kicking game was going to look like between Drew and Aaron Blom and between Minnesota and this game, and he's had a couple other opportunities where, boy, Drew Stevens has already had a lot of moments where it's been on the line, and he has come through, and it's been super, super fun.
Yeah. That final drive that they had was, even though I and a lot of people would like to have seen them try to get a few more yards just for the sake of Drew, make his life a little bit easier, they did run that final drive as perfectly as they needed to. Do that, the play to Nico, get the out to Caleb, and just get enough yardage to get in there. And it's what's frustrating about Iowa sometimes, that the line between good and bad is the margin for error is so very thin. Sure. And thankfully on that drive, they were able to avoid any sort of error, and they were able to do precisely what they needed to. But just one of those plays doesn't happen, and that's probably going to be an overtime game, and who knows what happens from there.
You saw the moving forward by Drew Stevens to put one off the upright, come back and win. 2 weeks ago, after we learned that you can't do this, Deacon Hill in this offense had a chance with better field position to start to go get in field goal range for Drew. Deacon throws an interception. He takes a sack on first down.
Yeah.
When it was absolutely down, we saw this against Purdue, too, after that really rough first half where he just dropped one into Eric All for a touchdown that ended up being the deciding score. This kid, 10 of 15 yesterday, best completion, 30 points better than his normal completion percentage. Didn't throw it down a ton, had the pick, fumbled it. Boy, I would like his internal clock and awareness in the pocket to be a little bit better.
Yes.
But when the chips were down, as we saw against Purdue, and he had another shot at a 2-minute drill after throwing the pick against Minnesota, that kid threw the pass of his career and set up this team. And just so happened to be Caleb Brown, wearing a different jersey.
How about Caleb Brown? That's a huge catch.
Yeah,
right?
first catch.
First catch, yeah.
He's had a couple targets, but and just boy, if you're going to sit there and rip on Deacon Hill for his lack of completion percentage and for fumbling, warranted. Praise the heck out of that kid for when the chips are down once again, piping it in and setting up a field goal. That's a fantastic play for him, and one you hope he can build off of.
At this point, I'm sure most Hawkeye fans will accept 10 to 15 from Deacon Hill. Yeah, that's it's like he drops back, and he's had 3 of those fumbles in the last 2 games now, where it's like he just drops back and then just can't.
Not only is he waiting back, his just delivery, his motion is. It's not. I mean, slow relatively, like he's getting it out, but.
Give him credit for the throw. There was a couple out there. I mean, that one when he spun around and threw it, it was almost picked off by Northwestern. After the game, he's like, I got to throw that in the dirt.
He's had a couple of those where just
you cannot do that.
Apocalyptic, dude.
Yeah.
And and the weird part is, last year that's a sack for Spencer and you lose 10, 11, 12 yards on it. I don't know which one I would rather have. You want to lose 10 to 12 yards, or do you want to go absolute chaos throwing it like that? Like that's what Hudson Card was doing against them. Like there's a very slim margin for error, man, and I appreciate you trying to get rid of it and saving some yardage, but
yeah, and I'd even say that's. I mean, the interception I feel like was. I don't know. I mean, I can't put that totally on
Nico. Didn't seem to know exactly where the ball was. I'm not blaming
play
Nico,
by the
certainly,
defense.
but yeah, that's a heck of a play.
It was a good play. I think in what he said after the game, I tend to agree with. Like he said, he doesn't mind. He didn't regret throwing it. He regrets the placement. Like if you throw back shoulder on that, which I think is what they're taught, that's a touchdown.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the cornerback doesn't know it, but he put it out in front where the corner was. So I think it was a bad throw overall, but it's not necessarily a bad read.
No, I mean that's
just got to put it on the backside to give him a chance because Nico didn't have a chance to catch that.
Yeah.
He it's the one turnover again, one close on another, but boy, I just again behind an offensive line, and we'll talk about the injuries there that had 2 guys filling in. That was about as good protection as you could ask for on that play too. I mean, he could have sat there back for his 3-4 seconds that he likes to. I mean, he had time, and then. Just can't say enough about him piping it down. You saw Caleb Brown first career catch. Wearing the 81, I totally forgot it. I was like, who is 81?
I was just going to ask you that. I was sitting there with some friends, and I'm like.
I totally forgot. I was like, is it Desmond Houston again? No, he transferred to UNI like 3 years ago.
Alec Wick? What's going on?
That's 18, yeah. I mean, close. But of course, he had to wear 81 because, folks, you did it. I don't know if you had a petition.org or whatever it's called. What is it? Yeah, change.org.
GoFundMe.
Just ruined my thing. Ruined the analysis there. But Cooper DeJean played offense, you guys. My bold bye-week prediction that he might get a package. I guess it kind of happened. He was out there for like two plays. Beggars can't be choosers. Here's Coop and Kirk on a day that we'll always remember.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, I think. It was a little different. I haven't been over there in a while, but it was a lot of fun to be on that side of the ball, be able to handle the ball a little bit, be in that huddle. So it was cool.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I can tell you what the fear is. Is we only got one of them, and take him out of our defensive equation. I think he has it figured out right now. We're probably a little better on defense and special teams, and offensively we're trying to move the needle forward and what have you. So, but you take a key player out, just like you take Lachey or Eric All out. Things change. So, it's a decision you got to make, and you got to try to weigh and measure. And hindsight's going to be a lot better, no matter what. But, we could have done that with Micah Hyde. Could have done that with Cooper. I mean, we've had several guys like that, but it just, you got to be smart and think about the big picture.
Let the record show that Kirk Ferentz acknowledges the defense and special teams are a little better.
Maybe just a little better.
A little bit. Hey. 25-11 since the start of 2021.
It's just like how a good quarterback day is 10 for 15 for 65 yards and a touchdown. 4 yards. They were abusing the heck out of that little waggle motion in the tight end across the backfield.
I love that 2-second halfback delay thing. I really like that.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're just like, what is he going to do? Oh, there's LeSean going again. 1 carry, 8 yards. I think we've got the highlight of it.
Yeah, 1 second.
Super quick. I had to. So since we can't just send off like a 10-second video, I did pad it out with like the cool little whip around on the punt return, and then he had that dump tackle he had. I think that was first
that was
quarter. Like
great.
that was. We don't get to see Cooper hit super hard a whole lot, but that was cool. But yeah, here's the little end around that made Caleb Brown changes shirt.
That was another one that
I was in.
I look around at the other media people and the fans. Guys, we have Cooper DeJean on offense.
We did it.
Everybody stay calm.
That little whoop.
That
little twist thing was pretty. And then he had like the 45-yard return that just Jackson Rexroth just blocked a guy with his leg. And then this dump tackle is whoo.
I sent out a tweet on the Eye on the Hawks account, and it was like, alarm, Coop on offense. Actually, after that, a couple plays later, they faked it to him, and it opened up like a hole. It's just obviously we don't know is better than the coaches, but it just seems like this is such again. And then if he blows out his knee like playing offense,
that's the risk.
Oh look, we told you. And then the defense, banged up on cornerback because I think actually Deshaun Lee wasn't out. But he didn't play, right?
He played a little bit. He was on special teams, but it's wild to see. I mean, what was it like 3-4 weeks ago? It was we don't know if Deshaun's going to be back, and now he's back and he's great. So it's awesome to see. I know TJ Hall's still banged up, but good to see. Again, we saw what Deshaun did week 1 and week 2, filling in for Jamari.
Yeah, just continues to be a question of number of plays where it's like if the offense could have a few more sustained drives throughout the game, I think we could see Cooper out there for a few more plays, but. Just with the amount of snaps that he has to take on defense, it's hard to get him out there for more than a couple.
And then when Colorado played Stanford like 4 weeks ago, you could see Travis Hunter was so gassed just playing every single snap. And I didn't get to watch Colorado last night against Oregon State, but I wonder if they altered, his usage because he's an effective receiver. But if you're playing double the amount of snaps Cooper's already playing, then I can see where his effectiveness would go down.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. You certainly don't want Cooper to get hurt, and got a lot to talk about when it comes to injuries on the offensive line. A couple guys that were able to make it back in. One, by all accounts, might be out for the rest of the year. We'll talk about that after the break.
Better sleep means better mornings. Start your morning waking up on a Restonic mattress. At Corcoran Furniture, we are Delaware County's largest Restonic mattress dealer. We have great prices on Ashley Furniture and the largest selection of Restonic mattresses, featuring the Marvelous Middle, giving you more support where you need it so you can sleep soundly. And it's made for you right here in Iowa. So if it's a crossword, coffee, or the morning news, let Corcoran Furniture help you start your morning off right. Visit Corcoran Furniture in Manchester or shop online at CorcoranFurnitureManchester.com.
All right, so as we start to look forward a little bit here, we do have to look back at what happened injury-wise in this game because Iowa's offensive line is banged up coming out of this. At least 4 guys that we saw that were either questionable or in boots, carted off. Logan Jones, Mason Richmond, Rusty Feth, Bo Stevens at some point or another were banged up, and that offensive line by the end of that final drive only had about 60% of its starters in there. Couple guys moving around as well. Here's Kirk after the game just on the health of the offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a couple guys banged up, so we'll see what it looks like tomorrow. But it made the challenge a little bit more steep. You lose Logan, one of our best players on our whole team, on a leader, so. But again, credit, Tower jumped in there and did a really good job. I think he had one holding call, but no exchange issues. Ball security is a lot better today than last time out, so. And the center touches the ball every time. He's more important than the quarterback in that regard. So it's just, here's the guy coming in cold and played pretty, helped us function and played well. So, we'll see where it's all at.
This is another one that's hard for me to see while I'm there and I'm shooting. Unless you're Bo Stevens and you have to get carted off, I don't really know when an injury happens or when somebody's not playing on the field, especially when you're an offensive lineman.
So I didn't know for sure, until watching the footage. Because, you're watching where the ball is, especially if you're shooting. That's the weird part for the little inside baseball here. If you're shooting the game, even if we're closer to the field than everybody else, we literally only have this amount of stuff to see. So there's a lot of stuff that we miss shooting the game. We're getting more often than not, knock on wood, awesome shots, but it's not like watching film by any stretch.
And I think it's hard watching in general. As a fan, you're trying to see what's happening in the play, right? So if it's a pass or a run, you can't, 1, 2, 3, 4. 77 is, it's tough unless you're a seasoned vet at this, which some of the beat writers are. But Yeah, it's just tough to pay attention to that kind of stuff.
So, like, Logan Jones, I didn't even know that he was out until after halftime. He comes back onto the field wearing a boot, and I'm like, what happened to Logan?
I didn't notice this, again, until I started going through your footage this morning. I think Tyler Ellsbury was the starting center for this game. I think he started out, at least, I mean, he was in there early before Logan went out, or Logan might have got banged up early and then was kind of rotating out. But,
So Logan did play some in the first half?
Yeah, I kept seeing, again, I wasn't looking at it, but I know some of the beat writers were saying, oh, Logan's limping off the field, came back in. So I don't know if that was something he was dealing with coming into the week or if something happened early and he just kept trying to play through. But let's get to at least some of the footage of what we did see in terms of what happened there. Again, Bo Stevens goes out. That was in the fourth quarter. Was holding, his hip, his leg, somewhere in there. Got carted off. Never a good sign for long-term health.
He seemed like he was in a lot of pain.
Yeah, tough. A kid who started some games there. There's Logan Jones, your starting center at the end of the game with a boot on his foot. Rusty Feth was questionable at halftime along with Mason Richmond. Rusty was in on that final drives, though, so he was there playing left guard. Mason was not, and again, Bo getting carted off. So we'll see what the offensive line health is like going in against Rutgers, who, again, Greg Schiano, plays a lot like PJ Fleck. PJ Fleck's off his coaching tree of just like trench game, running the football, trying to stop the run as well. So it'll be interesting.
I was watching that game, that Ohio State-Rutgers game. That was the game I was watching at 11. And Rutgers went into lead at halftime with a lead over the number one team in the land.
Had that wild Fumblerooski play.
Yeah,
super fun.
That was pretty cool. That was a bye week edition. Little wrinkle there, he said at halftime. And
Iowa had the wrinkle. They ran with Cooper.
Exactly, yeah. But Kyle Monagai, I think that's how you say his name, had 24 carries for 159 yards. He was gashing at times this Ohio State defense, which was pretty impressive. Of course, they were going down to, I think, add on the lead, and there was an interception brought back for a touchdown in the third quarter, and that kind of just opened the game for Ohio State. They kind of had a backdoor cover, but they're an interesting team.
So you're saying that Iowa could beat Ohio State in the Big Ten title game?
That's exactly what I was saying.
That's what I heard there.
I was actually saying they could lose to Rutgers next week. Either one probably fits.
Yeah, I don't know. Out of those four, I think I was, again, like I said, I didn't see Rusty in there on that final drive until I started going through footage today. So that's big. Mason, I don't know what the situation is with him, but obviously you never want to lose your left tackle. I think Nick DeYoung was in there at left tackle at the end. Logan, you just heard Kirk say one of the best players on that offensive line has really started to find himself in his second full year at center, but Tyler Ellsbury, stepped in and seemed to play pretty well. But
one interesting thing that Deacon said after the game was, people, every time a center goes down, they're like, oh, is there going to be a fumbled snap? But him and Ellsbury worked all summer together, and he's like, during the week he gets a few snaps too with the ones just in case something like this happens. So those guys have a good relationship, it seems, and I think he said they go golfing in the offseason together. So hopefully you don't see anything, the rest of the season, any bad snaps or mismanaged stuff like that.
Yeah. Rusty was another one who I didn't know anything was awry until I feel like it was maybe after the first quarter that we saw him walking back onto the field without any pads on or anything. And I'm like, oh, Rusty's been gone too. But then post-game I saw him there in the pads.
Yeah, so he wasn't in pads at some point out there?
At least not shoulder pads. I mean, legs, whatever. But yeah, like he was coming back from the dugout, walking around the field back to the sideline without any top pads on.
Yeah, that's. Did you see Mason at all? You know what happened with him?
Couldn't tell you. Yeah, again, I had no clue that he was out.
Well, we'll see. Certainly,
situational awareness.
Yeah. Well, talk about this too, because we heard from Kirk again. Not a huge fan of playing on a baseball field, and just talked about on Tuesday, just logistically of like both teams on the same sideline, weird dimensions. I mean, listen, I'm sure it was an awesome experience for the fans. They got to be in the stands. There were some way back seats there, though. Yeah. Shooting in a baseball stadium, shooting a sport that's not baseball in a baseball stadium. What was that experience?
Yeah, it was a little weird when I was on the end zone that the goal line stand happened on, because you're right there with the fans. I mean, the fans were, in the seats right down there to the field level, and it's like that's where I was. I mean, there was no separation between me and the fans.
We usually have 10 yards from back of the Kinnick end zone to the north end zone.
I mean, I had my back leaned up against the wall and there were fans, a foot behind me, just drunk, belligerent, shouting.
You
things,
don't know that.
Asking all of us to go get some grass for them to field grass, that kind of.
It's Illinois.
It's legal there.
It's Illinois.
Is it really?
Yeah, oh, I wouldn't know. Sources have told me.
Good answer.
No, we did stories when it was legalized that because
that's true.
Dubuque is right across the border.
It's not fun being by the fans in a stadium like that, where it's like, man, there are some wild things being.
You telling me Iowa fans get rowdy?
Oh boy, it was tough.
Random question going back to the O-line. I just thought of once we started. But Dejon Parker, has he played at all? He's a senior.
I know
right?
he's been banged up a lot. I think that's been one of his struggles.
Can he come back for another year? You think like he transferred right from
Saginaw Valley State? Yeah.
You think bringing someone in and
I would hope so because I had high hopes for him. I mean,
there was a little buzz in the preseason.
Started 30 games, I think, at Saginaw Valley. So I know he was banged up there for a while, and that was Kirk's thing of just like, I think, not to bring up the Joey Labus situation, but I think that was his thing with Joey too, is like miss a bunch of time and then you're just trying to catch back up.
I was just going to touch back on the divot thing there. I feel like if anything, if I were a Northwestern fan, which apparently they have some, they're not
Michael Wilbon.
Mike Greenberg. He's a Northwestern grad too, I think.
I've got a Wilbon story if you want it after this.
Ooh, love it. I feel like they would be the ones that would be pissed about the divot because I feel like that disadvantaged them more than anything because it's like, I have to think that their O-line and maybe even their quarterback couldn't find their footing there on the line when it was, a foot deep divot that he's trying to work through. That was a huge advantage, I think, for Iowa that they were able to have that big hole sitting in the middle of the field. I mean, I have I don't know. I wonder if they'll ever go back to Wrigley for a game because it's like that field just looks.
It's just tough going to a baseball stadium. I mean, people talked about that at Yankee Stadium for the Pinstripe Bowl in 2017 of just it's just different turf.
Yeah.
And
surface.
What is the reason why they have to be on one sideline?
I imagine it's
Kirk
just
said.
space.
Did you hear him say that it was monetary? The reason? He said.
I think if it's monetary for any reason, it's because
Or
there's fans, in the stands over here. If there's a football team here standing there, they probably would not be able to sell tickets to a bunch of those seats on the first baseline because they'd have a football team standing in their way and they wouldn't be able to see anything going on in the game.
I forget the exact usage or wordage he used, but he said he made it seem like it was money reasons. He's like, logistically, it'd be more sense if there were two sidelines, but so that's why I think they wanted to sell those sideline tickets.
Probably so.
Cash rules everything.
Yeah.
Great philosopher said that once. There's that. So we'll see what comes out. I'm sure we'll learn Tuesday more about the injuries. Don't give us this Wilbon story.
All right, so I was a couple of my friends who were there this weekend. Sadly, I couldn't go, so I kind of bummed I missed out. But we got suite tickets through a family member of We went with a Northwestern fan, so there were 5. I was a student at the time, 2010, when Stanzi lost that game. Well, Stanzi didn't lose it. Sorry, Stanzi was on the team, and Northwestern threw a touchdown pass on the last play of the game, and Dan Persa blew out his knee.
Sorry
anyway.
to use cuss words. Dan and Persa are cuss words for Iowa podcast.
So we're in the luxury suites and just having a couple cold ones, And one of my friends, Alex Rich, shout out to him. He went up to Michael Wilbon because he was in the suite too and said, "Pardon the interruption." And he's like, "Get the heck out of here," just like Wilbon would.
Did Wilbon swing on him? I have a friend who was in one of the rooftop areas with the Ricketts yesterday.
Oh, really?
And apparently one of them is a Nebraska grad but was wearing Northwestern stuff. And my buddy, and he's listening, and he knows who he is. I'll keep him protected for anonymity reasons. Went up and "Oh, wearing Northwestern stuff even though you're a Husker, huh?"
And you.
Gotcha.
There you go.
Actually,
I'm sure you drew that.
That reminds me, one of my buddies too, I won't say his name, but he was at a bar yesterday and he was hanging out near Bob Stoops. And he bumped into him a couple times and he's like, "Hey, I heard there's a coaching job open somewhere," and he just kind of chuckled.
Yeah.
So
I did see a picture of Stoops. So he was in Chicago?
Yeah.
That's cool.
He's a Hawkeye.
Yeah, just there for the game?
I think so, yeah. Just there for the
neat experience,
yeah, I guess.
I have a cool Northwestern alum story. J.A. Adonde, who was also part of that, one of the best hour blocks of ESPN ever was Around the Horn.
Still going on.
And still is.
I watched it last Monday when I was waiting for a flight.
It's still it's fun to dip in. But J.A. Adonde, my freshman year at Northern Iowa when we first met, I was writing a column, or I was starting to write a column for the campus paper, and this would have been, '06, spring of '06, and so I shot him an email just because it was like j.adonde@latimes.com, and now he's a professor at Northwestern teaching sports journalism. But I just sent him an email like, hey, I'm writing this new sports column, do you have any advice? And just like sent it out in the ether, like you didn't know. Had to go into like a computer lab at Bender Hall to do it or whatever. And he got back with within an hour.
Wow.
And it was just just write every day. Just keep writing. It's like any other craft. You just got to work on it. Just find some way, whether it's columns, poetry, feature story, like whatever it is, you just write something every day. And pushing 20 years now, been doing that every day. So it's the simplest thing. There's no way in heck he remembers that email, but I'll treasure that advice forever. Write every day. So J. Adonde.
That's cool. I think a lot of times people forget, even, we're on local news, but the people that are on national TV, like the people that are on it are still people. And so, if everyone I've come across where I've talked to, I'm like, oh my God, that's,
It's the cool thing. Kaysen is obsessed with watching old Sunday night or Saturday night football on ESPN or ABC intros and stuff like that, and seeing all the big names there. And he was watching one the other day with Tom Rinaldi. So Tom Rinaldi started at a local station in South Bend, and a photographer I worked with in Grand Rapids worked with Tom at that station. He's like, that guy has been writing in iambic pentameter for his stories, and just always being so poetic with it since the beginning. So that's the cool thing is these names are up there on the big stages, but they all started at other spots too, and we're in the local grind for. Dave Revson's one of the only exceptions that I've talked with Dave before. He, I think, had a local job for a year and a half, and then went right to ESPN News when it launched. He had a very short So he was asking me about so yeah, you've been in there for a decade. What's local news like now? He's like, I really don't have any perspective of it because some people get lucky, and he's been great.
I suppose as long as we're sharing Northwestern alum stories, maybe I've got one too. Me and Jack Leto.
There you go.
We were the last ones to leave the stadium last night. And as often happens, I even said to Jack, I'm like, this has happened to us before where we get locked into the stadium and there's no way out.
In Nashville at the bowl game.
Nashville, yes. I brought that up to him. I'm like, we were the last ones out and had to go to the semi-truck tunnel to walk our way out. At State Track, I remember him and I were the last ones out. All the doors are locked. We can't get out of the stadium. Anyway, I was asking him as a Northwestern alum. I was like, "Are you rooting for Northwestern this game, or what's your allegiance like?" And he's just like, "Yeah, I mean, not yeah." He says that he really tries to remove himself from any rooting allegiance.
That's tough.
I know. I'm like, dude, if it was you and I would not be able to remove my rooting allegiance. But he's like, "Yeah, I just try to take all that out of it." Okay, so speaking of ESPN folks. Did you guys see the awful announcing top 10 list of the best ESPN shows of all time?
Mm-mm.
So they did a list of just all the awful announcing writers, voting on the best ESPN shows ever. I'll run us through the top 10. Number 10, 2-Minute Drill. You guys remember that show? Dude.
Former KCRG anchor Chris Earl was a contestant on 2-Minute Drill.
Really?
And he
I had no idea.
He rocked.
Really?
I think it's still on YouTube. Look it up. Chris Earl.
Kenny Mayne is a host.
I love Kenny Mayne's my all-time favorite ESPN anchor.
He's the best. Having celebrity guests each week. It's just a trivia show, where these guys come on. That show was so good.
So cool.
I had a PC game of 2-Minute Drill.
They did have that. I remember. Also, fun fact: Kenny Mayne, UNLV quarterback.
Yes.
He was ahead of Randall Cunningham on the depth chart when Randall first showed up.
And then he got injured.
And then he got hurt, yeah. But I love Kenny.
Number 9, Around the Horn. It's been around a long time.
For itself.
Number 8, The Sports Reporters, which I've never watched, but it was...
I used to watch every Sunday morning growing up.
Number 7, Baseball Tonight. I don't really fit in, but okay. Number 6, Stump the Schwab.
That's a great show.
Great show. I mean, I liked it a lot. I personally like 2-Minute Drill better, but Stump the Schwab was a fun show.
It was just cool to be able to see and probably something we didn't understand until after the fact, but getting to meet Howie Schwab, that's the Schwab, and understanding there are people behind the scenes that know everything about everything. That was such a fun revelation of these are the guys that are, you learn how the sausage is made, these are the guys making the world go round, at least at ESPN, at the worldwide leader.
Number 5, NFL Primetime, which
still a great show.
Chris Berman and Tom Jackson. Come on. Number 4, I actually would probably put this higher, but College Game Day was number 4. I'm like, that's got to be number 2 in my book. Just talk about a show that I mean, the world centers on College Game Day on Saturdays. It's like that's like their staple. I mean, they have almost no bigger footprint in the college landscape, in the sports landscape than College Game Day and what was the number one. But anyway, number 3 is PTI. Number 2, Outside the Lines, which is like great, obviously great journalism, great everything, but like maybe doesn't totally get the viewership just because it's like on at weird times during the day. It's like 1 o'clock on a Thursday. Number 1, Sports Center, obviously.
I'll cop out.
Favorite? I know I just talked about Kenny Mayne. Do you guys have a favorite Sports Center team?
My
duo.
I do. I mean, my favorite probably of all time is like you'll still be able to see sometimes is John Anderson and John Butchie-Gross. Yeah, those two together.
Maine.
What's that?
Butchie Maine.
Butchie Maine. Those two are great. Butchie does so much hockey now that like that takes him away from the anchor desk. But when you get John Anderson and John Butchie-Gross together, I challenge anybody to find a better, more entertaining Sports Center team of all time than those two. We're in a day where people love to crap all over Sports Center. Oh, it's not like they used to be with highlights and fun, blah, blah, blah.
You can look at your highlights on your phone. That's why they don't do it that way.
Yeah, Bucci and John Anderson are unbelievable.
I don't know if they ever teamed up, but Kenny Mayne and Stu Scott are probably my 2 favorite.
I think they did a few shows.
I really like Dan Patrick's show back in the day, after Sports Center, but he was always good too.
Oberman.
There were a lot of shows that it was Kenny Mayne and Scott Van Pelt. Oh man, that was a
that SVP
great
show is good.
SVP is still awesome.
So fun story about one of the names that we just brought up. When I first started in this business, there used to be a Banana Republic at Coral Ridge Mall, and I went in there to like buy I can't remember.
No, I said Rip, rest in peace.
Oh,
I thought you shop there.
I was like, I don't remember the logistics of where it was in the mall. But I went into Banana Republic and like buying my first ties and a couple nice shirts because I was going to start anchoring in 2011. And there was an older woman who was one of the retail associates, and she asked like what I was doing. I told her what I did for. Oh, my nephew is a sports anchor. I'm like, oh, cool. And she's like, yeah, he works at ESPN. His name's John Anderson.
Yeah, that's right.
So John Anderson's aunt. Like, and I still have a couple of those ties, because I don't throw anything away. I still wear it. So, but that was such a cool thing. She's like, oh yeah, my nephew, he really likes it. He really enjoys it. I'm like, yeah, he's great at it.
He does. He's been doing it for.
He's a foundation of that place now. Yeah, super cool.
You guys like Anderson is
he's great.
He's off the grid, number 1, because he has the most basic name in the world, John Anderson. He doesn't have social media or anything, and so he's not on Twitter or whatever like SVP. But like, man, he's so good.
He can do both though. He can be the straight man, so to speak, of just like, hey, just delivering the highlights. But then he also, one of the really good This Is Sports Center commercials where he pretends to trip on they're coming down a hallway and it's making fun of like guys flopping in soccer.
Oh, yeah.
And so he gets hit and just collapses. He goes, oh, my ankle! I won't walk for days. And then he just gets up and walks away.
Another great Sports Center team, one more, was Stan Verrett and Neil Everett.
Yeah.
Like doing the late night Sports Center that they started in like 2009, I want to say that started. Because that for so long, like just with my and probably our lifestyle, that was a Sports Center I probably watched more than any, was the one from Los Angeles that started at midnight. They were a great team for a long time.
Boy, we're just reminiscing about all this. SVPs.
That's back in my day. That's
SVP getting caught with performance enhancers. He had a thesaurus in his desk. This is the funniest Sports Center commercial to me. Unhand me, rapscallion. Like the FBI comes in to bust it.
My favorite This Is Sports Center commercial, maybe I thought of this, that's what made me think of Neil Everett, was the one with the elevator. Do you remember this one?
Oh, with the New Jersey Devil in there.
He walks in the
going up.
He just walks back off.
There's another one where they're messing with the thermostat and the devil keeps cranking it up and they keep going down.
So speaking of, this is what we call a transition. Speaking of performance enhancing, let's take a look at these picks from the weekend.
Mike had a weekend.
Oh, Lord.
I wasn't juicing, I swear. Go through these quickly.
What'd you pick up in Illinois on your way?
Mike, you lied because Wisconsin did not cover.
Oh,
boy, we caught him in the act.
I must have missed that. I was going through.
Yeah, you must have.
Connor Stallings.
I was the only one who had any sort of faith in our Indiana Hoosiers.
Well, I'll dock myself.
Yeah, you better, boy. I'm just trying to cover up the fact that I'm 21, 31, and 2, and that I
picked up a game on me this week.
I feel good about 2 and 5.
Rough week for Owen. Owen went 1-6. I went 4-3.
We got lucky with Ohio State Rutgers. That was a backdoor cover there late.
It was
that 19 that was decided by?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The line moved up to 19 too, that Ohio State game. So it ended up pushing.
Nope. Nope.
But we took
that was
it
a
at
cover.
Wednesday, so
That was a cover.
that covers for us.
Yeah, Purdue ended up covering against Michigan. Lost, I think, what was that?
41-13.
Something like that. Yeah, 28. Again, Minnesota lost on a late touchdown from a backup quarterback for Illinois. So Illinois still finding themselves as they get ready to come to Iowa in 2 weeks. Maryland just got blown out by Penn State. Penn State, boy, talk about a nice bounce back. They're going to be good. Michigan State, kudos to them, getting their first Big Ten win and looking pretty darn good against Nebraska.
And the last game, the Iowa Northwestern one, going back to our game, I think I called winning by field goal. I have to go back and look at the tape, but I'm pretty sure I said Iowa's going to win, Northwestern's going to cover. That happened. But, hey, after those losses, this is from ESPN Power Football Index. The Hawkeyes are 71.3% probabilities to win the Big Ten West. This John Steffi posted that.
With 3 to play, and just think they're this away from being 2 games up with 3 to play.
Yeah.
And being 8-1 and probably still ranked.
I mean, when I was seeing some of those results come in yesterday, I'm like, who wants to win the Big Ten West? I mean, this is such a weird division this year where it's like, I thought, well, maybe Minnesota's picking up some steam, but then they lay an egg against Illinois. And, I mean, I don't know what to make of this division.
The weird part about it is every one of them outside of Minnesota has a backup quarterback playing. Well, at least now, because Illinois had to. I didn't know that. I didn't watch that game.
Altmaier's situation is, yeah, it's
just as Nebraska's picking up steam, they go out and lose to Michigan State. Like,
yeah,
weird division.
It's going to be an interesting November, which is, I guess, depending on what side of it you are, you want these games to matter. We've talked about that quite a bit. So we'll be back on Wednesday, recapping everything and from Tuesday and getting ready for Iowa's return for their second to last home game of 2023. They will host those Rutgers Scarlet Knights that just lost to Ohio State. They're coming in those 6-3, and again, Greg Schiano's club. You know what you're going to get from them, and they're darn good at what they do. So, thanks to everybody for tuning in on this Sunday. Again, you can follow us at Eye on the Hawks on Twitter. And follow the streams on Iowa's News Now on YouTube and Instagram. And again, wherever you listen to podcasts, Eye on the Hawks is there for you. So final thoughts before we wrap up quick. Anybody got anything?
I mean, I talked about that being the game where it could make or break the rest of the season. If Iowa loses that game, could be a spiral. But they won, and I mean, it gives you a lot of faith going into those next couple games, knowing they have a little bit of a cushion there in the Big Ten West.
It's going to be tough to win these games if you're going to keep, having that narrow margin like that.
Yeah.
Kirk said it himself, we have to play like this, I think he said. The blocked punt, like if that doesn't happen, you know what happens. But
complimentary football looks a little weird sometimes. But hey, 7-2. You'll take it however it comes, I suppose. We'll be back here on Wednesday with Eye on the Hawks. Have a great Sunday, everybody.